In this video, I want to look at what I consider to be the key project management deliverables. The list of possible project management deliverables is almost endless. And in no circumstances would I ever recommend that you produce every deliverable that you find in a template pack or a checklist. But there are a few deliverables that I would consider to be absolutely essential, and some others that I would expect in many projects once they start to get of a sufficient size and scale. So in this video, I want to talk you through my selections and encourage you to use the comments below to respond to those selections with your own thoughts. So let's start with my 5 absolute minimum project documentation deliverables. Because if you are doing a project for somebody else using their money and hazarding their reputation, these are the things that I think you absolutely must have to demonstrate your competence and to take proper care of their money and reputation. Number 1 is some form of project definition, charter or brief. Some sort of document that sets out what your project is, what it is not, what it's going to do and why it's going to do it. It's the thing that actually sells the project. Yes, the business case will provide the evidence, but it's the project definition which tells everybody what it is you're going to do. And number 2 is some sort of business case or project budget, because you're spending someone else's money and they're going to need to make an informed decision about whether what you're going to do is good value for that money, whether the benefits they're going to receive are likely to justify the expenditure and the risks of doing it. Number 3 is some form of plan. I think it is incumbent upon you to give confidence that you know how you're going to do what you're going to do, and that there is a good chance that it will succeed. And number 4 is some form of risk register, because shift happens, things will go wrong. And those things can cost your client, your sponsor, your boss an awful lot of money and perhaps put their reputation at risk. You need to be able to A, demonstrate that you have thought properly about those risks and acted diligently, and second, you need a tool to help you to manage those risks and take the proper actions. And number 5 is some form of handover or sign-off document that you can use to formalize the handover from the project to the new beneficial owner of the products, the services, the processes, whatever it is that you have created and delivered. This is the record that you've completed what you've committed to do and are therefore ready to close your project down in an orderly way. Notice that with each of these, I've used the term some form of. And I've done that very deliberately because this is the kind of the phraseology that, to my mind, puts the power to the project manager to determine exactly what form of. I do not want to be prescriptive about the detail and the scale of your project definition or your business case or your risk register or your plan or the structure of your sign-off documentation. That's entirely up to you. It's your judgment. It's what makes you a professional rather than simply a clerical project coordinator. So you need to judge what is right in the context of the scale, the risk, the strategic importance of the project you're doing, and the nature and the culture of the organization within which you're doing it. And of course, there'll also be some element of personal preference in your judgment, of course. After those 5 absolutely necessary documentation deliverables, there are some other things that I would increasingly expect as your project gets bigger, more complex and more important. And I'm going to suggest to you 10 more documentation deliverables to consider, and I'm going to cluster them in 2 groups of 5, if you like, the second and third tier below our top tier absolute necessary deliverables. First off, in our second tier is some sort of stakeholder engagement plan or communication plan, something that tells you how you are going to engage with your stakeholders, communicate your messages, listen to them, and perhaps influence their opinions and their behaviours. Second, in no particular order, is some sort of resourcing plan or work allocation plan that allocates work to individuals. You know who your team are and you know what needs to be done. That's going to be in your some sort of project plan. But how do you link those together? For small projects, it's something you will think about and do without documenting it. But as the project gets bigger, you may consider creating a deliverable for that. I also think you will increasingly need some kind of deliverables list or set of specifications or quality standards, something that sets out what it is you're going to deliver and the standards and specifications to which you're going to deliver them. In a sense, this is just taking the scope from your project definition in terms of deliverables and making it more precise, and also something against which you can check off the delivery of those products ahead of handover to make sure that that handover goes smoothly and you get easy sign-off from your client, your sponsor, or your beneficial owner. Also, as the project starts to get bigger, I would absolutely start to expect that you'll be delivering some form of status reporting to your sponsor, to your board, to your client as you go. For small projects, yes, it will be absolutely fine to report informally, orally, in meetings. But as the project gets bigger, you need to put it on the record. You need to give people time to digest the information before you meet them. So you'll start to see some form of status reporting. And finally, as the project gets larger, there'll be more lessons to learn, and I think you need to start formalizing lessons learned reviews as a process throughout the project, and that might mean you start to document the lessons learned in some form of register, and at the end of a large project, for many organisations, you may want to produce a formal lessons learned report that you can circulate appropriately within the organisation. So those are my second tier, my second 5 deliverables. Let's move on to the final third tier deliverables that I would expect on a larger project. Everything below this third tier is going to be very much discretionary and based on the nature of your project. But these 5 third tier things I would start to expect as the project gets even bigger. And so for large projects, I'd be very surprised if I didn't see all or most at least of these 5 deliverables. And the first one is procurement documentation, because as the project gets larger, you need to buy stuff. And that means specifying what you need, possibly running some form of competitive tender process, and certainly contracting for the things you need. And all of that requires some sort of a plan, some sort of specifications, and that's going to generate a whole load of procurement documentation. Also, on larger projects, quality will start to really feature, and so that will generate documentation around quality design, quality assurance, and quality control. You'll need procedures, you'll need templates and forms to fill in and have signed. And all of that will bundle together into a whole raft of potential quality documentation. Third, as your project gets larger, you also have more requests for change, and it will be harder to push back against those requests because of the scale and the duration of the project. And that's right in a way, because as the projects get larger and longer in term, you would expect people to spot more opportunities to improve the project, or possibly technology will change and you'll want to do the project in a different way. So you will need a change control process, and therefore change control documentation, change request forms, change control logs, and the such like. Fourth up is gateway reviews. For a small project, yes, you'll have a conversation with your boss or your sponsor or your client at the end of each stage just to update them on where you are and to make sure they're happy for you to proceed. But for larger projects, start to introduce formal gateway reviews. It gives you more control, it gives the governance process more teeth, but most importantly, it protects the organisation whose money you are spending. And the final thing I think I'm going to mention here is that for larger projects, it becomes more important to test the deliverables, the products that you're producing. And of course, as testing comes to play, that itself generates a huge amount of testing deliverables, test scripts, test plans, test sign-offs, and all of that. And so my final project management deliverable is the testing documentation. Of course, there's plenty more that you could do, and I will give a full list of all of our project management templates in the description below so that you can get a sense of many deliverables that you could have, and that by no means is a complete set of potential deliverables. Every project manager will have their own favourites, and there will be some exotic forms of deliverable that will only be relevant to a small number of projects. But I do want you to focus on the 5 top tier key deliverables that I do consider are essential. Make sure you've got a definition of your project, some form of budget or business case, some form of a plan, a risk register, and something to document handover. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more. And to find out about them through your email, hit the notification bell. And I will look forward to seeing you in the next one.